It's 8 o'clock. Time to call the meeting, the pre-agenda meeting, and we briefed the items that's on the agenda for today's meeting. First of all, I will call the meeting to order. Invocation will be by Commissioner Foster. Pledge of Allegiance, Commissioner Daugherty. Approval of the minutes. We will need a motion to approve the minutes for the August 17th meeting. Any adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, we do have one thing that we've been asked to place on the agenda is a resolution honoring the late Mayor Chuck Allen, and Carol will be passing that out now. If you're okay with that being added on, we would like to put that under special presentations and do that as number 2, and then have Judge Heath be number 3.
Thank you. Who would like to read that resolution?
I'll be glad to.
Okay, Commissioner Daugherty is going to read the resolution for Mayor Allen. Is that the only adjustment?
Yes, sir, it is.
And where'd you say you're putting that?
We put that at number 2, right behind the introduction of State 4-H President. And we'll put that in front of Judge Heath.
Okay. Is that the only adjustment you know of?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Appointment committee, Mr. Gurley, do we have anything today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I still didn't find out where you're going to place that.
Special presentations. Number 2 under special presentations.
Oh.
Gonna move Judge
Move Judge Heath to
It's already at number 2.
Oh, yeah. It's a new number 2 for the resolution, and then number 3 will be the presentation by Judge Heath on the family drug court.
Okay. Thank you. I'm waking up this morning.
Unfinished business, Mr. Honeycutt.
Okay, we'll have update on COVID-19 testing and vaccines by Dr. Stackhouse, Dr. Weiss, and Joel Gilley here. Again, with the variant hitting us hard and our numbers rising, we thought it would be a good opportunity to talk about things that we are doing to help kind of, again, flatten the curve. So we wanted them to talk about, basically putting the emphasis back on the vaccine, when and if boosters will be ready, and those type things. And then number 2, motion to adopt resolution 2021-28, resolution by the Wayne County, the County of Wayne approving the memorandum of agreement between the state of North Carolina and local governments on proceeds relating to the settlement of the opioid litigation. Again, this would allow us to have the funding that will be coming to the counties through the opioid litigation settlement. And also the city of Goldsboro last night approved of their resolution in support of this, because by having them approve, we would get 5% more to the pot of the county for this program. Again, we don't have any idea how we're going to spend this money or any plans at this point, because they've really not come out with the rules and regulations and really how much at this point. But this is just saying we will accept it and that we will use those funds within the county.
And after we have the discussion on it, that will be an action item that we need to vote on.
Yes, sir.
And my advice is don't spend any of it until everything about the lawyers' fees have been settled. Now, you've hired lawyers and told them all the counties didn't. So this is something that some counties are getting a windfall on.
Mr. Chairman, if I might inquire, are you saying they have not resolved the attorney fee question yet?
The State Attorney General has resolved it in my mind that we can use the money to pay lawyers if we have to. The lawyers themselves have not agreed. The lawyers that were hired, the consortium of lawyers that have hired have not come to an agreement as to what they're willing to accept.
So there was no contract of what they would be getting?
There was a contract. They were to get 25% of what they collected for us. A judge up in Ohio has said that he thinks that 15% is enough for them to get. There's going to be, in the overall general settlement, there's going to be about $1.8 billion for lawyers. You know how lawyers like a little money every once in a while. So what my advice is to approve this today, but don't spend any of the money until all the legal fees questions have been resolved.
So the maximum that these attorneys are trying to get is 25%.
That is what the contract that we signed with them gave them.
Okay, thank you.
That's nationwide,
No,
or just North Carolina?
all the
ours.
counties in North Carolina did not hire lawyers.
Okay.
So, there's a concern among the lawyers that did all the work that some of those counties are going to get a benefit but didn't have to pay for it.
I got you.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, going back, I've got a question in regards to item 1. We're not going to be talking about any facility issues or anything like that, are we?
Not specifics.
Okay,
Not specifics.
thank you.
Okay, item 3.
Okay, item 3 is motion to approve funding agreement between the Wayne County Board of Commissioners and the Wayne County Board of Education to accommodate the North Carolina Lottery Grant and to formalize the agreement to fund Fremont Elementary School. This is the agreement we've been working on for many, many months. This was approved by the school board last week, and their approved version is in your packet with very minor changes in what we've asked for.
Okay, and after this is, item 3 is brought up, we have to act on that motion, on that
Yes, sir.
business also.
And then we do have a public hearing scheduled at 9:15 to receive public comments on the requirements of the 2021 North Carolina Community Development Block Grant Program, as well as explanation of regulations, eligible activities, and proposed uses of the 2021 CDBG funds that could be undertaken in the Neighborhood Revitalization Grant category. We also have Dave Harris here. Again, as the board is aware, we've been trying to look at grant funding through CDBG to help with some drainage issues throughout the county. And this will be that public hearing. If Chip or Dave. Wait, okay.
Yeah, wait, because, no need of doing it at 9, then have to come around and do it again at the public
Yes,
hearing.
sir. And then we have our consent
Wait
agenda.
a minute before we leave that. Is there going to be any action required
No, sir.
on that?
No, sir.
Okay, all right.
And Mr. Chairman, if I could inquire, are you going to be presenting some projects at the public hearing for comment or not?
No, there'll be discussion of different options.
Okay, all right. So we're not talking about any specific project that you would be asking for comment on?
If a specific project is selected, you have a second public hearing which would review that specific project budget and benefits.
Well, if I could inquire a little more, are you working on a project that would include some drainage issues?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Harris, I'm glad you're here, Mr. Chair. The drainage issues that we're inquiring about. I've had some constituents wondering when you were going to pay a visit to them to see if the grant that you're working on, that they would be awarded that particular grant. Have you reached out to them as of yet?
We've been to every homeowner along the drainage easement in Rolling.
Okay,
But
when was that?
within the last week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we do have our consent agenda. Number one is applications for elderly or disabled exclusion, which have been reviewed and recommended for approval by our tax department. Number two, applications for disabled veteran exclusion, again, which has been reviewed and recommended for approval by our tax department. Number three, application for present use value, again, recommended for approval by our tax department. And then number four.
Mr. Chairman, could I interrupt here a minute? I mean, there are dozens of these. Where are these all coming from? I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of applications for tax relief here in this package, and I'm just wondering,
Bills have-
is there somebody going door to door
No,
trying to?
bills have gone out now. Bills have been sent, and now people
Oh,
are
okay.
realizing
All
that,
right.
oh, I should have asked.
Okay.
So that's where,
Okay, that makes sense.
You ain't get your bill yet?
I got my bill and paid it.
Oh.
I got mine and I haven't.
I would like a discount for an early payment.
no, sir.
No.
No, sir. And then number four, budget amendments. And I'll turn that over to Allison.
Okay, and your budget amendments begin on page 83 of your agenda packet. The first one is for social services. They are requesting to reallocate $44,150 from salaries and wages to overtime. They have a memo attached, but this money was budgeted in the salaries and wages line item, but it needs to be paid out of the overtime line item. This will be used to pay stipends to after-hours and on-call workers, and it will also be used to fund overtime for your regular full-time social services workers that are non-exempt. The second budget amendment, and there's actually two that go together, budget amendments number 62 and 63. These are related to the prior fiscal year grant cycle, for JCPC funds. There was some funds that were not spent entirely, so those programs have to remit that money back to the county, and the county in turn remits that back to the state. So you'll see there's one for $189.76 and one for $4,180. Okay, and then budget amendment number 65.
Mr. Chairman, if I go back to this, I hate to see that we are not spending the grant monies that we in fact have received and that we have to turn it back over to the state. So can we kind of make sure that our different departments understand that if we get a grant, we need to find some use for the funds?
Yes, sir, and these are, the JCPC has its own council. This is the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council.
Right.
And we have a state liaison that works with the local JCPC, and that council also has program monitoring in place. So I've served on that council before, and I know they do try everything they can to expend those monies.
Okay.
And so I'm sure, and we will relay that message back to them as well.
Thank you.
And I agree and I don't agree. I commend them for having money left over that they can turn back in. I know the state will probably throw it away, but that tells me that they're doing their job and they're not, just because the money's there, they're not spending it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I commend them in having funds left over. Go on. move on.
Okay. Page 89 is the next budget amendment for Central Services / EMS. And this is a reallocation for insurance and for both insurance and bonding and vehicle insurance, totaling $24,878. These are funds that were budgeted for EMS insurance that was budgeted in Central Services, and it's typically been budgeted that way because EMS was a proprietary fund and the way we had to account for it. EMS is now in the general fund, so this is an accounting move to get it from the Central Services line item to the EMS department line item within the general fund. Okay, your next budget amendment is for the Office of Emergency Services. They've received some insurance money in the amount of $3,400 due to a vehicle accident. For the library, they are requesting to anticipate $1,500 and appropriate it for a conference that they will be attending, and this grant that they've received is specifically to attend that conference. For the sheriff's office, they are anticipating and appropriating $223.07 in controlled substance tax monies. For EMS, they are requesting to appropriate $17,460 in fund balance for EMS collection fee, and this is to be paid to the NCACC as part of the Medicaid cost settlement. For the health department, they are requesting to anticipate and appropriate an additional $2,584.84, and this is for additional funds received for the Minority Diabetes Prevention Program. For Gateway, we are requesting to anticipate $2,850 in reimbursements from Gateway to offset fuel charges. They do periodically have to use our gas cards, and when they do that, we incur the cost, but then we bill them for the reimbursement. For EMS, they are requesting to anticipate $2,621.45 for insurance monies in the amount, I just said that. For insurance money that is due to a vehicle and deer accident. Okay, and I have several that I'm going to cover at one time. Number 87, 88, 89, 90. I think that's all of them. These are all for the health department. And as you can see on each one of these budget amendments, there are different programs that are being covered in each of these, and you can tell that by the first part of the code. The code says 131.51.92, and then it may change to 131.51.51, and so forth. So there are various programs within the health department that have several vacancies, and they are requesting to reallocate their salaries and wages money to a staffing contract line item. Now, this is not typically something that we do. We don't typically reallocate salaries like this, but they do have such a need to have people in place. And so we've talked about it with the county manager, and then finance has talked with the health department. And so they are going to work with the temporary services agency to try to get some people in place and maybe even hire those folks if they work out. But that covers all of these programs, and that's why you have several budget amendments. So it's not any additional funds, it's a reallocation from salaries and benefits to this temporary help line item. Does that make sense? Okay, I know that was a lot at one time. Okay, so I'm going to skip on through to budget amendment number 93 next, which is on page 113 of your agenda. And you will see a budget amendment and a capital project ordinance for what I'm calling the 21-22 debt project fund. So this fund will house the debt we incur for the DSS health facility and the sheriff's facility. Right now, all this budget amendment is doing is is appropriating funds for the Mosley Architect contract that we have for DSS and health. So that contract represents basic design services and furniture design services, and that amount is $1,445,000. So I am moving that from the general fund, but when we do actually secure the debt financing, we will reimburse ourselves for that and move that money back.
We are not having to pay that up front, are we?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Is that for all three projects?
No, sir. This is only for DSS and health facility. Because there'll be separate contracts for them and then a separate contract for the sheriff's office.
Are you having a separate line item for the jail project?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
We will have separate line items for, they'll be in the same fund, but the expenditures and types of expenditures will be completely segregated out.
Great, okay.
And number 11 is what you're they're asking you to do that so you can reimburse yourself.
Right, okay.
Okay. Your next budget amendment is for the sheriff's office. They are requesting to reappropriate funds for program supplies and their seized property monies. And this is totaling $119,684.18. This is monies that were not spent at June 30, 2021. Okay, then you have one for the library. They've received a grant in the amount of $15,000. This is the NC Humanities ARP project. And this will be used to, I believe, extend their local history programming and provide additional part-time hours for the historical staff.
I got a question, Allison. Go back to
Yes.
93.
Sure.
The 1.445, that's for the health department?
Yes, for health and DSS.
And then the other 1.44, am I looking at that right?
Oh, okay, so this is really accounting, this is accounting, transactions, so it looks like it's doubled up. But what it is, because of budgeting, we have to budget the transfer on the 110 side, and our 110 funds have to balance. So you see one set of entries for Fund 110, and then you're gonna see another set of entries for Fund 467, because
Okay.
that's where the transfer's coming in.
All right. That eases my mind a little
That's
bit.
governmental accounting right there.
Okay. All right.
He asked me on it, and I said, it didn't make sense to me.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. I wanted to know, do you all have number 96 in your agenda packet? Hey, look on page, if there's a page 121, I see it now. I thought maybe that one had gotten left out, but I see it. Do you all have that?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, so this is our last one for Office of Emergency Services, and they are asking to anticipate $917.68, and this is for insurance monies received. And that's all I have for you.
No more questions on budget amendments. We'll go to number 5 under consent. Motion to approve Hampshire Place subdivision final plat as recommended by the Wayne County Planning Board, and Barry is here.
Good morning. Yeah, this is, excuse me, final plat for Hampshire Place. It's a small subdivision out on Old Kentley Road, right near Boyette Pond Road as it turns to go into Johnston County. This, since it is a final plat, all the improvements are complete, so the road is in, it is paved. We do have a built standards letter from DOT, and our planning board has reviewed this request and does recommend approval. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions for Barry? Okay. Then number 6, motion to establish a public hearing on October 19th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. in the Commissioners' Meeting Room on the 4th floor of the Courthouse Atrium, Goldsboro, North Carolina, to receive public comments on a request to amend the Wayne County Subdivision Ordinance by adding Section 70-104H4 to require secondary access for subdivisions with more than 100 lots with limited exceptions.
Earlier this year, this came before you in a little different form. At that point, the planning board was asking that this board consider an amendment to require any subdivision with over 100 lots have a second full-service access. There was some question at that meeting from some in the development community. And so it went back to the planning board for them to work with the folks, with the development community to come up with some alternatives, see if there was some other things that could be incorporated in there to address some concerns. And so they have done that over the past several months. And two options have come out of that, and that's basically incorporated into this ordinance amendment in addition to what you saw last time you saw it. I think it was back in February. That basically, if you have between 101 and 200 lots, you have two options now for that. One option is you can do a second, instead of doing a second full-service access, you can do an emergency access. And basically, that would be something that would be put in that would be geared towards emergency vehicle access, so that they can get in there in the event that the main access is closed. And we do have specifications on that in the ordinance as well for what that would look like and how it would be designed. And then the second option would be the developer could choose to do a kind of what we call a wider access or a wide access where you would have a median down the middle. You see some of these subdivisions with medians. I think one example that came up in the planning board quite often was Mears Bluff, if you're familiar with that, on 111 or Paytown Road. So doing a median in between with sort of a little bit wider access on one side going in and an access coming out on the other side, that would be an option as well. The development community was very favorable with those recommendations. They did work with the board on coming up with some of this. And so our planning board has recommended approval. And so what we're asking now is that you hold another public hearing since it has changed quite a bit. And it's been so long, we're asking that you hold another public hearing in your second October meeting so we can get input on that as well.
Mr. Chairman, if I could inquire. On the emergency access, a turning lane would not be required by DOT. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And let me say, I appreciate the fact that our planning board is working with our developers to see their concerns and address them, and you certainly have done it in these changes, and I just commend you for it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And one thing the board did mention was that if, as we work through this, as with any amendment, there may be some hiccups, there may be a need to look at it again in the future. And of course, we can do that, over time. If there's something that's not working or something that maybe can improve upon, we can definitely look at that in the future. Yep.
This has been in discussion for 20 and 25 years, because when I was on the planning board, this issue kept coming up. So, like Mr. Doherty said, I thank y'all for working on this, because like I say, this has been in discussion for a long time.
Yes.
Well, one of the pushbacks has been that by adding the additional entrance, you are adding up to $100,000 or more in cost to the developer to put in the additional turning lane. And here we've addressed that, several options that they have. So
That's right.
I just think it's great that you all are working with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
One of your options, you said, what was one? It was one of the alternatives. I think you said something about a different type of entry for emergency service.
Oh, yeah. One was an emergency vehicle access that would be designed for just emergency vehicles to be able to get in and out if the main access is blocked. And the other one was a wider access where you would have a median or like an island. You see those subdivisions sometimes with an island down the middle where you have one side you go in, the other side you come out, but it's a wider access.
And that emergency service entry, what surface will they be using?
That would be what we call an all-weather surface, so it would not be paved, but all-weather basically would be where an emergency vehicle could drive over it and not sink in.
And that would be a point too, you know what I mean? When you're putting down, gravel or whatever you're going to put down, those vehicles are so heavy, you know what I mean? Over time, who's going to maintain that? Who's going to service it? You know what I mean? So that would be an issue later on down the road. Is that going to be the developer? coming back in, or will that be up to the homeowners? They might not have an HOA, you know what I mean, in the subdivision.
Yeah,
So
in those cases with the large subdivisions, you'll have an HOA. One is required now by law that they have HOAs, whereas used to it wasn't. But most of those subdivisions that are going to have over 100 lots are going to have stormwater features as well. And so that also requires some sort of perpetual maintenance. So it would all be incorporated in that. But we do have our fire marshal, anytime we do have one of these come in, we'll be sending these to our fire marshal for him to look at to make sure that design is appropriate and that what they're doing would be sufficient for those emergency vehicles and not cause any sort of issues, like you said, with a vehicle sinking or, not being able to get in. So
yeah,
we will be
that would be
working
my
on
main
those.
concern, you know what I mean? Just making sure it doesn't get stuck. I mean, if you go out there and it gets stuck, it's pointless.
That's
you know what I'm
exactly
saying?
right.
So especially going in,
Yeah.
maybe coming out not so bad 'cause it's over,
Right.
but going in would definitely be a problem. So I just wanted to make sure that we're covered on that end and that we're not, trying to save a few pennies here and there for something that could end up causing more of a problem later on and costing us money on the back end. Because if the vehicle gets stuck, who's going to have to pay for it?
Right.
You know what I mean? If it gets stuck and get damaged, we're going to have to pay for it. So there's still money being spent versus, you know what I mean, the developer can make his money back by charging, if you got 100 lots, $100,000, I mean, nobody's going to say, oh, well, I'm not going to buy this house because it's $1,000 more. You know what I mean? Or $100 more. It's not going to be a big deal. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's the thing. So I just want to make sure that we're covered going all the way around and not just trying to penny pick a couple of, and save developers money when they're going to still charge their buyers on the same end. You know what I'm saying? So I want to make sure that we protect people more than anything, and it's not about money.
Right. And like I said, as we move through this, and if it looks like we're running into issues or it's just not working, like I said, it is something we can bring back, and look at again in the future, definitely. Yep,
Then it'll be designed on the front end.
it will.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Barry. Then we do have number 7, motion to approve fire service funding agreements between Wayne County and multiple Wayne County volunteer fire departments. Again, there's just one agreement in. This is our annual funding agreement with our volunteer fire departments, and nothing has changed over prior years. Then number 8, motion to approve an easement from the County of Wayne to Piedmont Natural Gas Company for Park East property recorded in deed book 1309, page 859 in the Wayne County Registry. Again, Public Services extending a line into Park East and needs part of our property for an easement. And we have taken this to WCDA, and this should not cause any problems at all with any future lots.
Could you kind of give us an idea of where this is located?
That's Thoroughfare Road on the backside.
That's Thoroughfare Road on the
Yeah,
back?
railroad tracks is.
That's the railroad tracks going along.
Oh, okay, I see it now. I thought that was 2 lanes of highway there, but actually that's a railroad track, okay. So this water tower that's currently there, whose water tower is that?
Wayne Water District. That was my whole intention to start with is why couldn't we actually access this water tower for water service for the park? Would it been that way you would have 2 water services, as far as, or I know we had this issue with water pressure or water before with the city, and this is on Wayne Water District. And it's actually basically going right by the property. You could tie right on, use it. I would think you could utilize the same easement, in conjunction with the natural gas. And basically taking in this.
I'm not sure why that was not an option. I don't know.
Did we ask?
I think it has been asked, but
I know
think
I've
there-
asked it, but has anybody that got any authority to ask it, I guess.
I think it was just easier with all of the pipes that were already there as such, just to go with the city of Goldsboro, since the city of Goldsboro is servicing.
Yeah, what I'm saying is they're having an issue, with
A flow issue.
yeah.
But But the Shell building did get that, they are putting in that water tower at the Shell building. So there is a tank that they are putting at the Shell building that's being given grant funding to do.
I understand that part, but I mean, that's, okay.
Right.
You just got one right here behind it, but you could actually tie in, because the Shell building is right there on that cul-de-sac, right?
Yes.
Where the white says preliminary map.
And that would have to be an agreement between the city and Wayne Water, which I don't know which district that one is in Wayne Water. There's 5 districts in Wayne Water.
I know that question has been asked and answered. I just can't remember what the answer was.
Nor can I.
Well,
I mean, it just looks like it'd be a whole lot less. I mean, it's underground, no maintenance on the tower or the tank. I mean, you gotta put in a water tank, there's all the time maintenance. Then you got fall protection, all that kind of stuff. Just an assumption, especially when you see it right here on the map when it's going right by the water tank. Anyway.
And number 9, motion to approve the bid for EMS ambulance remount to Southeastern Specialty Vehicles, Henderson, North Carolina, as the lowest responsible bidder. Again, we have bid that out formally and like to have approval on that. And that is a budgeted item. And
Mr. Chairman, going back to this easement, I did not see anywhere in the paperwork there in regards to the amount that they are in fact paying for this easement. Is it in there?
Yeah, $134,000.
Okay, all right.
On page 144.
Yeah, 136.
And we were comfortable with that price?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm one step behind.
The number 10, motion to approve Little River Fire Department loan consolidation. Again, Little River Fire Department is looking at combining and refinancing some outstanding loans. And again, we have had finance take a look at it, but it does take board approval.
they're just refinancing at a whole lot lower interest rate.
Yes, sir.
Is what they're doing.
Yes, sir. Then number 11, motion to adopt resolution 2021-29, a resolution of the County of Wayne, North Carolina, declaring its official intent to reimburse expenditures for a new Department of Social Services health facility and a new detention center under United States Department of Treasury regulations. Again, this is our reimbursement resolution that we will be doing, that once we do finally go out for bids and financing, that we will take those funds and reimburse back the county for any expenditures on these 2 projects. Questions? All right. Number 12, motion to approve the joint agreement between BPR Goldsboro LLC, the City of Goldsboro, and the County of Wayne for the realignment of the entrance at the Maxwell Center. And all God's people said, amen. This is the, basically the plat was recorded, or should be recorded today. The deed's the deed's recorded today. The city approved of this agreement last night. Basically what it is we will work with BPR since they'll be mobilized on site during construction. They will do this section, and the city and the county will reimburse at half of the cost for the road realignment. So the thought process is, it should save mobilization that we looked at originally about $30,000. So hopefully it'll come in much cheaper.
Okay.
Then number 13, motion to approve covenant personal time off, PTO, for vaccinated employees. This is very similar to what we did originally when COVID came out. If you remember, emergency family medical leave, where there was 80 hours that the feds basically gave employers or employees above and beyond for COVID-related exposure, sickness, that did not count against their personal time. That program ended December 31st. The Board of Commissioners extended it, I believe, till March 30th. And since that time, the thought process was, well, COVID and the variant, was not that big an issue, that we weren't seeing the breakthrough cases, so we no longer allowed that being above and beyond. But now we're starting to see with the breakthrough cases, even with the vaccinated people are still getting COVID, that we are basically saying that you do not have to use your personal time if you're vaccinated, fully vaccinated, if you do get COVID. And hopefully this will be an encouragement as well for those employees who have not been vaccinated to get vaccinated.
Anything that we can do to help, Greg?
Ginger, did I miss anything? Okay. But what we will do on this is the board is aware, we have had some breakthrough cases since the original PTO ended. We would go, if you were vaccinated and you had to be out for COVID, we'll go back and reimburse your time for that as well. But again, we're trying to do something to encourage our employees to become vaccinated.
It's a shame that we have to do that, but what can you say?
So I'm looking here at item 3. It says the employee must provide a copy of his or her vaccination card and proof of a positive COVID test.
Right.
Only applies to those that have been vaccinated.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And again, we're trying to do that as an encouragement for our employees to get vaccinated. The number 14, motion to approve right-of-way agreement between the North Carolina Department of Transportation, Wayne County Development Alliance, which is really the county, and the city of Goldsboro.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yes, sir.
I got a little bit, I got to go back to that. I was sitting here thinking about it, and I understand the encouragement of wanting employees to get vaccinated. But say I'm an employee and someone's vaccinated. They catch COVID, but they bring it to the office. I'm unvaccinated. Say the other employees are vaccinated. I'm the only one that's not. But everybody in the office gets sick. So even though it's not my fault that you brought it in the office, but I catch it along with those that are vaccinated, catch it, you're not going to pay me because of that. I mean, the message, I understand, like I said, wanting people to get vaccinated, but what are we saying there? We're saying that you testing positive is less than someone that's vaccinated?
That's kind of the same scenario I brought up at the pre-agenda meeting. We're sending mixed messages on some of this stuff.
Because, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's,
well,
it just bothers me a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Because you're at work, you know what I'm saying? And what are you to do? You know what I'm saying? Because, you still have to take that time off. It's not even where you get the option to say, well, I don't feel bad. I feel fine. Because you can be asymptomatic and feel fine. But you still can't come to work for those days. So that's an employee that, to no fault of their own, can't get paid for that time of being out of work. And at the end of the day, vaccinated or not vaccinated, you can still catch this virus.
Right. But I guess it would, for the thought process is it hopefully would encourage somebody to say, hey, don't know where I would be able to get COVID from, that if I do get COVID and I am vaccinated, that I do have that 80 hours. And then that gives them an incentive, hopefully, to say, if they were on the fence, saying that maybe I should go ahead and get vaccinated.
I mean, but you said, I understand that
Yes,
part
sir.
of it, but I'm just saying in all fairness and just doing the right thing by employees.
Yes, sir.
That's the problem that I have by it, because I mean, regardless whether some people don't want to do it for whatever reason,
Right.
and that's their right. at this
And
point.
we do have,
But-
there's an exemption, number 4, employees with a sincerely held religious belief, practice, or observance that forbids them from taking COVID-19 vaccination who wish to be reconsidered for COVID-19 PTO must submit documentation to HR. The county manager will review the request and decide if the employee qualifies for COVID-19 PTO on a case-by-case basis. So we do have that sort of figured in as an option. But again, that would have to be on a case-by-case situation.
Like I said, I just want this
Yes, sir.
to cross my mind.
Yes, sir.
Piggybacking on what Commissioner Foster just said, I mean, he said they can't come to work if they're non-vaccinated, but the office gets it. If they're truthful that they've got it, then they don't come. If they're telling the truth that they got the virus, that they don't come to work. But then if they're just symptomatic, but they're still, I guess, can transfer or can they can, if they don't have the time, they're more apt not to. They're more apt to come to work if they're sick. Does that make sense?
Well, and again, that would be without this policy or with the policy. You know, and again, we're going to run into that without the policy or with the policy about people maybe not having a sufficient time off and saying, hey, I need to work, I don't want to take leave without pay, that I'm going to come in symptomatic or asymptomatic or whatever and not be truthful. But what this hopefully does is those people that are not, it'll push them towards getting the vaccine, and then that way that would give them that 80 hours.
I don't like the word push.
Encourage.
Encourage.
Yes, sir.
Encourage them to get the shot.
Yes.
I don't like the word push.
Yes, sir.
Good.
All right. And then we have did we talk we talked 14? That is the widening of Williams Street. They're doing some also widening over off of Paytown as well as far as an entrance. And that is the easement agreement on 14. And then 15, motion to adopt resolution 2021-30, a resolution declaring surplus real property and authorizing its sale. Again, this is the area that we have over at Clingman Street, next to the 911 Center and Animal Control. That may be an option for looking at our DSS health. If one way or the other, we would have to get that area cleaned and removed from trees. And we are asking that the board declare that surplus property so that we can get rid of the trees at this time.
Are we just declaring the timber surplus property or the
timber?
Okay.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just
Not the property itself.
Not the property
Okay.
itself. Yes, sir.
Back to 14. Go over that one a little bit. I understand.
They're
The
redoing.
William Street project, how's it going to affect us?
Because they're making some changes to the William Street Paytown entrance as well. And that is going back up Paytown Road, which is in front of the Goldsboro Industrial Campus.
So they're going that far?
There, as far as some improvements, yes, sir.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we actually did have them extend that project to include the new campus. So that was good on the part of DOT to do that.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be better truck access to our industrial campus.
And that's going to be included into the Williams Street project?
That's
Yes,
correct.
sir.
Well, that's the first time I've heard of it.
Me too.
I mean, we need to know these things before it's on our agenda.
And that's been relayed to the property owners?
Yes.
Okay.
And then under new business, motion to adopt resolution 2021-27, a resolution of support of request funding to install Seymour Johnson Air Force Base truck entrance guide signage. Again, this is a $200,000 project that DOT is working on to better acknowledge the Slocum Street entrance as your truck entrance and not Berkeley, and hopefully that'll release or help with some of the traffic down on Berkeley.
This is funded by DOT.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then number two, motion to award request for bid replacement on a 350 kW generator to Wayne Electric, the lowest responsible bidder. This is to replace the generator here at the courthouse and the jail that's at the Sally Port. So that generator is original to the building. And this was a budgeted item as well. And then we have public comments, county managers' reports, board of commissioners committee reports, closed session, and then adjournment.
Anyone else have anything? Okey-doke. I do not mean a motion to go out of. No. We're adjourned until 9 o'clock, and we will reconvene for our regular county commissioners meeting.